You're here. Welcome to the Masterminding Success podcast. They say if you want to be successful in business and in life, then surround yourself with successful people. So pull up a seat. The mastermind is about to begin.
Hey, glad you could join us for another episode of the Masterminding Success podcast. We're your hosts, Keith Wheeler
and Nuria Colby.
And what are we going to be talking about today, Nuria?
Today, we're going to talk about misconceptions of low content or no content books. So another interesting topic, and we'll see what we both think about that.
Yeah. I'll tell you, nowadays, no content books, low content books, and some people are calling medium content books. They seem to be like the hot new thing, And I see ads for it. I see people doing courses for it, and there's definitely a lot of misconceptions for people who are they see these commercials and they see these ads and they immediately think, oh, I can do that, and it's a get rich quick or whatever. And so, I think this is a really good episode to talk about.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends from whose perspective we're talking about, because I think there's two parts to this. One big misconception is that it's easy. It's easy money. You make a notebook, you make blah, 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 and you put it on Amazon and the money comes in. And that's one misconception, which is, they think it's easy to do. But then there's the other side as well. And there are people who think it's too difficult for them, who I've got a lot of people that tell me that, they've been studying and learning about it for about a year, but they still haven't published anything. And I'm thinking,
right.
Wow, you need to just start, because otherwise you'll never, so obviously in their minds, they're thinking that it's difficult because otherwise they would have started already. So I think it just depends on the perspective. But yeah, you're right. There's so many adverts now on TikTok as well, where they make it sound so easy. And we both know it's not that easy, but that's one big misconception, definitely.
Yeah. I could just list off a bunch of different misconceptions, but just to touch on the ones that you already brought up is, I see those ads all the time, make X amount of dollars in such and such amount of time. And just like with anything, it goes back to things that, many of us heard when we were kids. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. If there was a magic bullet, a get rich quick. First of all, I doubt people would be putting ads about it. They'd be keeping that a secret, right?
They would.
Is it necessarily, can it be easy to create a no content or low content book? Absolutely. It could be fairly easy. But then what quality are you putting out? Are you putting out quality that you as a consumer would want? Also, if it's super easy for you, how competitive is that niche? Because what I hate, time is something that we have a finite amount of. And so I hate to see people wasting their time creating any kind of content, whether it's written or no content, and it being something that doesn't give them anything. They don't get anything out of it. And it's just a huge misconception that you can just create line journals and just put them out there and you're going to make money. Line journals are extremely competitive. There's just so many out there because there were so many ads 3, 4, 5 years ago that said, do line journals. And so, when it comes to no content, low content books, one of the many misconceptions that I've found is that you can just create one book and you're good.
That's definitely one that I find, because I don't know if you get comments like this, but sometimes in the groups, people say, I've created 10 books and I haven't sold any, or even some people even say, I've created a book and I haven't sold any copies. And I'm thinking, wow, well, one thing is creating something, the other one is making sales.
Right.
They're two very different things, and just because you're creating something, it doesn't mean it's going to sell necessarily. It could take a long time before you see a return for the time that you've invested, especially in this kind of job where we're creating content, whether that's books or videos or blog posts, whatever that is. It's usually something that takes time to generate an income. And yeah, that's one of the things, you know, are people expecting things to happen too quickly? But then at the same time, I don't want people to get discouraged either, because it is a really good opportunity, you know.
Oh, it absolutely is. I think it really comes down to setting your expectations.
Yeah,
you know?
that's right.
You know, I will say that, you know, if you plan on just being one and done, you plan on just creating one, you know, whatever type of low content, no content book, it's chances are it's going to be hard for you to get a significant amount of revenue from that. Just because, you know, with as in most businesses, there's that 80-20 rule. You know, 80% of your money is going to come from 20% of your products.
That's right.
That's the case in restaurants that I've managed, as well as, you know, books, you know. And so having other content out there, you know, not just being one and done, you know, just setting your expectations ahead of time. No, you know, if you go in there thinking that if I create one-line journal, I'm going to make all this money. If you know that that's not realistic, it's possible, but it's not realistic, then I think there's a lot less chance of you being discouraged.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I gave myself a year when I started. I thought, and this was before KDP, before I was doing books. This is when I started blogging. I said to myself, I'm going to give myself a year. And if it doesn't work out by then, I'll do something else. And I was lucky that I discovered KDP before the year went, before it ended, because this was something else. And I wasn't expecting much. I think this is exactly what you were saying. You know, if you don't expect too much, you go into it with less baggage, with less obstacles that you could come across. And I think the misconception, whether it's too easy or whether it's difficult, depends on where you stand there, and depends on your expectations, I guess. Yeah, but it's I don't know whether anybody listening will think it's very easy or very difficult. And it will be interesting to know what people think. So, you know, because I'm can only talk from what I'm seeing around me and from the comments that people are leaving. And I would say, I don't know if you agree, but I would say that most or the majority of people don't think it's too easy, but there's a big proportion of people that think it's easy to make money, and then they get disappointed when it doesn't happen for them.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, and the ones that do think it's easy are the ones that are just starting out. You know, they saw those ads, they saw those commercials.
Yes.
But again, I think if you look into it a bit further, then you can really have your expectations set properly. Because it really depends on, you know, did you do any, and so many of these commercials don't tell you need to do, you know, niche research. You need to find out how competitive that particular niche is, because even within line journals, there's so many different niches that you can be in, and depending on how competitive they are will really determine how, quote, easy it is for you to, you know, to start seeing you know, some royalties come in.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it really depends on, and it doesn't have to take you, you know, weeks or, you know, even days really to do the niche research. You know, it's just going in there, looking at, you know, the different niches that you might be interested in, and you know, figuring out, you know, which ones have the least amount of competition, but they've got a good amount of sales. So, you know, that, hey, you know, this is something that if I create something for, I've got a good chance of at least getting a few sales.
And I think also not everybody has a business mindset, because a lot of the people that are watching those videos that show you, oh, all you have to do is this, and those videos are fast as well. You know, they really go over the topic really quickly, and you think, wow, That's all I have to do.
That was easy. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're not telling you that this is a business. It's a business like any other. And you have to do a lot of not just niche research, but you have to learn about the rules that apply.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people know. I get questions like, can I open up another account on KDP? No, you cannot.
Right.
You really need to read the terms and conditions and familiarize yourself with that. And that is not quick. I tell you, it probably take me 2 days to go through all of them, because there is a lot to it. There is a lot you need to know about what you can and what you can't do. And if you're running it as a business, then you will do that. But if you are thinking this is a way to make money quickly, easily, then that's not going to happen.
Right. And don't get me wrong. I've known people who have, right out of the gate, they've created some products and they've made a lot of money, but they've done it the wrong way.
Yeah.
And like you said, didn't read the terms of service. And they got, some money right off the bat, but then they got their accounts closed. KDP, if you're doing something shady, you may get away with it. You may not, but eventually KDP will catch you. And that's when you see these messages and all these boards where, KDP's closing down all these accounts. Well, you know what? You finally got caught.
Yeah. Most of them are for a good reason,
Right.
It's very few where it's an Amazon mistake, but
right.
most of them, and I think people are panicking for no good reason, because there is a reason why those accounts are getting shut down. If you dig deeper.
Right. And most people, especially if they're knowingly breaking the rules, are not going to admit that. They're just they're going to act surprised and oh my gosh, they did it for no reason. No, there's a reason.
To be fair, some people really don't know the rules, and they don't know that they've done something wrong, that's why it's so important to read up on the terms and conditions before you even start, because there are things that I used to do that now I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm so lucky I didn't get a ding for that, like putting sizes in the titles of your books or things like that. Because when you're starting, you look at what other people are doing and you see so many doing that. You think, this is how they want you to do your titles. And obviously it's not. And if you don't read Amazon's guidelines, then obviously you wouldn't know that, because if you copy what other people are doing, most of it is not the right way of doing it.
Yeah, that's very true. And I look at it this way: if any platform that you plan on publishing through, whether it's KDP or Ingram Spark or Lulu, treat them like a business partner. You would not just go into business with just somebody randomly without learning a little bit more about them. Same thing with these platforms. Look at the terms of service, see what's okay and what's not, because just remember, we're playing in their sandbox. They're bringing us all of this visibility to our products. They don't owe us anything.
Exactly.
They're letting us do it for free in most cases. And so the least you can do is go in and spend some time and read the terms of service to make sure that you're doing everything by the book.
You've got such a good point there, because this is such a great opportunity when you look at it. It's an amazing opportunity, and we better do it right, so that we can be successful, and I think to go in it with, I see a slight level of arrogance sometimes with people, where they go into it and they think Amazon owes them something, or Amazon isn't doing this, Amazon isn't doing that. Amazon, like you said, doesn't owe you anything. You have to play by their rules, and it is the opportunity that it is, so.
Yeah. Another misconception that I found is that low content and no content books are limited to just line journals and planners, right? That's all it is, right?
Oh, no.
It's so much more than that.
It is so much more than that. It's actually, for me, it's one of the most creative ways of producing a book. I know writing, of course, is another very creative process, but I actually think people haven't discovered the possibilities in shall I say no content for me is like lined notebooks, and
Right.
then low content is anything that goes. I
Right.
don't really go for that medium content
Yeah.
thing, because that it doesn't exist really. And it's only because Amazon have now acknowledged low content books that I'm
Right.
even, but yeah, there's just so much. And I know we've gone through all the things, log books, coloring books, puzzle books, but there is so much more that we don't realize. And I don't want to talk about it because it's one of my niches that I'm very successful in, that people don't really know much about. But if you learn about it and you create what people are looking for, it's amazing. There are things out there that I didn't even know about this niche. I thought, what are they doing? And I learned all about it, and it's amazing. There are so many opportunities if you dive into it. So it's not just notebooks, like you said, or graph paper. Those things are good too, but I think once you've mastered that, look into all the other opportunities that there are, because there are many.
Yeah, I mean, line journals and sketchbooks and things like that, that's a great way to start. To learn, creating templates and that kind of stuff. But absolutely, that's just the tip of the iceberg, as they say. There's, obviously I've done really well in puzzle books and other books, but it's funny is because puzzle books and journals, those are things that I kind of just stumbled upon. Just like with a lot of creations, it all started with, being created out of necessity. I did it for something for my kids, and they ended up selling, and, it kind of snowballed from there. So don't, if you're just now starting in no content, low content books, or you're just thinking about it, line journals, coloring books, that kind of stuff, if you do your research and you find a good niche within it, those can be successful for you.
Absolutely.
And they're good starting points. But if you're interested in doing this as a business, like you were saying, consider, broadening your horizons, thinking of, some other things that maybe other people aren't thinking of.
Yeah, absolutely. And even the things that are already out there, any business, if you're looking at a product that you're bringing out and that product already exists in the market, you wouldn't bring out exactly the same one. You'd have to do something, either you create a cheaper product, or you create a better product, or you change the design of the product, or it's got a different function. There's something that you need to do to make it different. And it's the same with books. And I always used to say, make lined notebooks to start with, but then stop making them, because, you're not going to sell thousands of lined notebooks. Boy, was I wrong. My husband, when he joined me, started making notebooks, and he stumbled on a design. Let's call it a design, because there's not a lot you can do with lined notebooks in the interior. It's mainly the cover design.
Right.
And he's very successful with that. So he proved me wrong. So you can make money with notebooks, but they have to be different. You can't make the same ones that are out there. So there is a lot of opportunity, and the longer you do it and the more you learn, the more you discover things that you can do. So
I definitely find it very, creativity wise, very freeing to be doing no content, low content books, because there's very little rules, as far as what you can do and what you can't do, minus not paying. I mean, obviously you read the terms of service on, on platforms. We already discussed that, but I mean, as far as like, things that you can do to make your book different, make the cover different, make the interior different, all of that, create a completely different product, and even you were mentioning, earlier about, written books. And I would say one of the misconceptions that I hear is, basically that you're either going to be a writer, or you do no content, low content books. And something that I've told my students that, that write children's books is to, doing no content, low content complementary books is a great way to, one, change, do different side of your creativity, creating another product for that line, but also making yourself available and visible to people that normally wouldn't have found that book. You know,
Mhm.
people that are looking for, coloring books might not be looking for children's books.
Mhm.
But if there's a coloring book here and then they find out that that's actually based on this children's book,
Yeah.
now you've got,
Yeah.
multiple sales that you can be getting,
I think that's
so
another topic, really,
yeah,
how to
absolutely.
expand your product range.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
So it's not just for, you don't have to necessarily be in one avenue or the other,
Absolutely.
writing books or no content. You can do like us and
Yeah.
be in both.
And be in both. I've actually noticed one thing that I don't know whether it's just the Amazon community thing that they've got on KDP. I find that writers of fiction or nonfiction are very anti low content book creators, because if you go in there at your own sort of peril, because they're very aggressive when somebody asks a question and they kind of sniff out that that's a low content creator. They're very dismissive of, and they don't offer any help. And I found that quite sad, because I think that it goes hand in hand. I think if writers are looking down on low content, they really need to question whether they are as creative as they think they are, because creativity has no borders. You can go from one thing to another, and I think absolutely low content books are at the same level as a written book. I'm sorry if anybody disagrees, but in my opinion, it's absolutely the same. It's all creativity, and you can do an amazing job on a low content book.
Right.
So
I mean, if you think about it,
misconception.
Yeah, if you think about it, many schools have already been on that same platform. They have textbooks, but then they have workbooks to go along with it. Well, that workbook is a no content, low content book.
That's right.
It's a low content book right there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's that it is a huge misconception that you can't do both. And I agree. I've seen that, unfortunately. I think part of it is just like in a lot of things, you've got a few bad actors that are kind of ruining it for everybody. I know from doing children's books and other written books that, and because of these commercials and stuff like that you end up getting this onslaught of, just line journals, going crazy. And then what that does is that kind of buries other good books. And so I can understand that, that immediate negative connotation when it comes to no content, low content books. But that by no stretch am I, saying that that's a good thing. It's, just remember that there are people out there creating every kind of book that you can think of, and many kinds that you haven't thought of yet, that are doing it for the right reasons. They're trying to do it, to quality and as a business. And I always go by the mindset, treat people the way you want to be treated. So
absolutely. Yeah. Spot on there. I think you can't go wrong if you think that way. You kind of, you're bound to succeed.
Right.
I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, I just think that there are a lot of misconceptions when it comes to no content, low content books. And I hope if there's nothing else that the listeners have come across is that, throw that, all those misconceptions aside. And if this is something that you think you might be interested in, then go for it.
Absolutely.
You can, I would say the first thing you'd want to do is to, figure out what kind of book you want to do. Again, just to start with, maybe it's something that you're doing for yourself, for your family, and, do a little niche research, see if there's any interest in, from the outside audience, are there sales coming from that type of book and that kind of thing? And then just go for it.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. It's a great opportunity, whichever way you look at it, but it's like any other business. You have to work hard at it. You have to do the right kind of things. But if you do that, then it's so much easier than running a jewelry business or anything like that, which I used to do. So for me, it was a revelation, and I love the creativity, and it's a completely different thing. And I think we're very lucky that we're able to work at this.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more.
Mm.
Well, this has been another great mastermind, Nuria. Once again, a huge thank you to all our listeners and viewers who came to tag along. If you enjoyed today's mastermind, please consider following or subscribing to the podcast and maybe even leaving us a review and let us know what you thought. It would mean the world to us. Oh, and if you have an idea for a topic we can cover, feel free to email us your ideas or drop us a comment on one of our YouTube videos. Until next week, I've been Keith Wheeler.
And I've been Nuria Corby.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining the Mastermind today. Be sure to follow the podcast on your platform of choice and tell a friend who would enjoy it too. Your support is greatly appreciated. This has been the Masterminding Success Podcast.